as Kubernetes becomes invisible infrastructure, what's one misconception that organizations still have about Kubernetes or cloud native at this stage of adoption?
Yeah, the numbers really reveal that it's not just about technical aspects or technical challenges. What this study revealed is that the current challenges relate to cultural change and managing change. I think the human dynamics of modernization and computing decision making and strategy and how we go about best practices. So that is the current pain point in how we manage culture, how we manage technological innovation, how we manage change, how we manage practices. That is really what this study reveals, that these dynamics are worth organizations paying some attention to, and that they're really linked to success. How we manage our ingress of open source code, how we manage our optimization of projects, how we optimize the release of software, and how we manage that most effectively is through greater cultural collaboration, both across projects and within ecosystems. And certainly showing up at open source events like KubeCon is a way to help infuse your organization with an open source culture, a mindset, an awareness of best practices, an awareness of how we can get over some of the complexities around tooling and security and adoption and bring out the most optimal scenario within our organizations. So culture eats strategy for breakfast, and so too does it in the context of cloud native success stories.
You mentioned complexity. We always hear about complexity. Did that still show up on the survey, or now there are other pain points that is affecting or influencing the adoption of Kubernetes?
Yeah, I'll tell you what surprised us, and I'll say quite honestly, it wasn't necessarily from this past study, but it was when we did the Kubernetes turns 10 study that we revealed that study revealed that complexity was still a major barrier to Kubernetes adoption. And that was informative because it required a little bit of reflection on how can we make these processes easier? How can we make this project less complex, more accessible? What do we need to close that gap? So I don't think that has disappeared altogether, but the study that it really rings true and it rang through quite loudly was at Kubernetes turns 10. And by no means is Kubernetes the only open source project that has complexity issues. I do qualitative interviews routinely, and sometimes the technological decision-making choice comes down to, is my ability to onboard my team members going to be successful? Does this project have the right documentation, the right onboarding tools to make my job easier? And so, yeah, we have to address complexity ongoingly, and it's always a challenge because the goalpost is always moving.
Looking at the survey data, what's the biggest shift you are seeing in how organizations approach cloud native and AI infrastructure today compared to even a year ago?
I would say, Swap, that the trends that I've noticed and that came through this survey were with respect to how organizations are adopting AI. And I think that the trend a couple of years ago was all about models and foundation models and building models and training those models. What we learned very quickly is that that's an expensive thing to do. It's a really expensive thing to build a model from scratch, to train it up, and takes a lot of energy, a lot of resources and time and talent. And what this survey through CNCF illustrated was that a good number, more than half of organizations, are not doing that. They're taking a model and using a foundation model and training it. And that's what the inference workload data reveals, is that models are not being built from scratch. They're using, which is a great sign for open models, by the way. And it is a recommendation that our research studies have made this year. And I reference the CNCF data in those studies to say, optimize your resources. No need to recreate the wheel. Use the models that are highly effective. Optimize your costs and bring them into your environments and train them with your data. Much more cost-effective way to go. And I think that to me was a surprising yet interesting finding about where we are in terms of AI adoption. And maybe that we're thinking beyond foundation models now. We're thinking about sovereign AI, independent AI systems. We're thinking about data, but using open models within those contexts was really quite interesting to see that. I'll add one point, and that is really the new research that Frank Nagel has published at MIT. He's LF chief economist, and it's really about encouraging more organizations to use open models because of the cost savings. And it's not unlike using other types of open source technologies. While organizations are running inference workloads on open models, there's still almost an equal number that are not. And that's a cost, that's an opportunity cost. Frank Nagel calculates it to be approximately $25 billion in costs from not using open models. So the big picture is open source, open models, open cloud orchestration tooling is still the most cost-effective way to optimize your innovation strategy today. So that's the only message I'd like to conclude with, Swap.